Brittney Griner, who was imprisoned in Russia in a man's prison, which I had no idea.
Is under fire for extremely aggressive behavior portrayed toward Caitlin Clark, the rookie from last year, the one that has everybody's focus in the WNBA. And this incident has, of course, gone viral online, but also sparked up some other skeletons in Brittney's closet that she probably wants to stay hidden.
No, it wasn't a surprise birthday party that gave Brittney the shock of her life. Doctors recently disclosed some bizarre, astounding information concerning her health that has Brittney completely terrified. To make matters even more bizarre, Caitlin Clark went into full attack mode and completely changed the course of events. What took place after that? Stay tuned, because you won't believe a word of this hilarious turmoil that is about to get really intense. A second of it.
Gotta see this. So Brittney Griner has just been banned from the WNBA after this situation with Caitlin Clark is going viral, where she made some extremely racist remarks from the bench after getting fouled out by Caitlin Clark. I mean, this is just insane. Just watch this video, bro.
Brittney Griner just had a complete meltdown. No, it's not because the final piece of pizza was consumed. No, it's because the physicians revealed something so shocking that the WNBA's well-curated waking in a hurricane, safe space wobbles like a Jenga tower. You heard correctly, though. Brittney Griner, who's been yelling, elbowing, and essentially turning women's basketball into a pay-per-view event for the WWE, is now terrified because medical professionals made the decision to examine her biological state more closely. I am aware.
Who could have predicted that Brittney Griner might get mistaken for a man?
Here's the really good part. We've all been told for the past 6 years that all it takes to be eligible to rule is to simply identify as a woman. Women's sports, leaving the other female players perplexed and wondering if they ought to have simply uttered the magic words as well. Oh no, though not Brittney. She didn't pass through with ease. She physically elbowed her way in, followed by a racial outburst. Recall that tiny treasure when did she pursue Caitlin Clark? Yes, that wasn't your typical terrible sportsmanship. She referred to her as trash white girl. What's a little prejudice between woke teammates, after all?
Brittney Griner just called Caitlin Clark a trash effing white girl. Caitlin Clark has been picked on and abused ever since she entered the league in 2024, and now Brittney Griner is joining in on the action, saying that she is an effing white trash white girl because after she fouled out, she decided to take her anger and frustration out on Caitlin Clark. If the roles were reversed, imagine the type of field day the media would be having right now. Let's all remember the character of Brittney Griner. This is the same woman who got caught smoking weed in Russia and...
But this is where things get juicy, so hold on to your seats. The medical discoveries are not merely typical interesting, sort of things. No, not at all. They speculate that Brittney might be acting entirely differently. One that entails a degree of physical superiority that the majority of female players can only imagine, and that benefit? It is unquestionably biological, and the WNBA's lack of response, deafening.
There are a number of states who are aggressively moving to prevent transgender athletes playing. And I was wondering, where is that going to be on your radar in terms of advocating for athletes, all athletes, transgender athletes to be able to play?
Oh, I mean, that ranks high on the list of things that I'll be fighting for and speaking up against. You know, everyone deserves the right to play. Everyone deserves the right to come here, sit in these seats, and feel safe.
Really, Brittney? Really? Can we switch this Brittney with the other Brittney, please, and bring her back?
Look, this isn't a plot hatched by a few keyboard warriors. We are discussing qualified medical experts who have researched injury histories, muscle composition, bone structure, and recovery patterns. They're more perplexed than your grandmother when it comes to TikTok trends because don't look for the typical female athlete in Brittney's body, voice, or even her movements. Consider a physician going, hold on, that's not the bone density of a woman. After that, the WNBA was just fiddling with their thumbs. There is nothing to see here, so go on.
Made a trade for the Merchant of Death and returned him back to Russia for him to continue doing the same shenanigans that he was doing before he got arrested. He sold $10 million of arms to the Houthis. You think this was an even trade? The WNBA is nothing more than the WWE with women in basketball shorts.
To make matters worse, Brittney was physically seen on camera abusing Caitlin Clark with the nuance of a wrecking ball. However, when you take into account the possible biological advantages she's been Under the cover of gender identity, that attack becomes more about unfair treatment than foul play. Dominance, the entire trash white girl tirade suddenly feels like adding gasoline to a raging fire. Silently in the background. Do you want to be hypocritical? Let's discuss how the WNBA has advocated for inclusivity for many years. And equity while ignoring these obvious issues at the same time. It's similar to saying to everyone, you're all unique snowflakes, yet allowing one person to dominate the competition with a racist aspect and an unfair advantage. I promise that Brittney wouldn't be elbowing her if she were a straight white female. The path to titles, before you could say virtue signal, she would most likely be benched. Additionally, there is the entire Instagram AI drama. Do you recall the video that reappeared? A topless video that Brittney shared on Instagram managed to go past. The AI on the site is meant to immediately identify female nudity. Rather, the AI seems to be so perplexed. It just treated the information as though it belonged to a male athlete and granted her a free pass. That could just be a bug. However, it's the ideal metaphor for the WNBA's entire strategy given all the other medical questions that are emerging. A system that is desperate to shield a player who might not suit the league's requirements, ignorant to reality, and deaf to facts. Own guidelines.
Seems that the WNBA is, well, we know it's not a serious league, but it seems like maybe they are trying to hide something. They certainly do not want anybody with an opposing viewpoint covering their league. Now, mind you, this is a league that's never turned a profit. This is a league that, even with Caitlin Clark having joined this league last year, lost $40 million.
Let's give credit where credit is due, though. It makes sense that Brittney is in a panic. It goes beyond simply looking foolish over the attack on Clark or even those racist remarks. It's about dealing with the possibility that her eligibility will be questioned in the future. Her reputation was destroyed, and her records were erased. If chromosomal testing is requested by the medical community, when questions about hormone levels and bone density scans are addressed, Brittney might end up being the face of why sports leagues require thorough biological confirmation, not just my identification as feasible. And let's not even talk about there is a legal mess in the works. There will be a ton of lawsuits if it turns out that Brittney has been competing under false pretenses. More difficult than a slam dunk, imagine all the athletes who were harmed by this woke loophole standing in line to demand compensation. A tiny nation may go bankrupt due to the financial consequences alone, with crickets chirping louder than the outrage they're attempting to avoid. They are hiding behind a wall rather than embracing transparency or establishing a standard for justice. Of damage management and quiet, perhaps they believe that if they ignore the issue, it will go away. A warning. It won't.
Used to be a chill, quiet place. You could bring your laptop and relax, maybe even get a little work done. But now, it's like there's a large gathering of people watching us from the stands. Some of them are yelling crazy shit about what they're seeing, putting unfair pressure on us to score like we're there for their entertainment. And that's pretty gross.
I act like this.
In the end, women's sports are meant to be about fair competition amongst women. Because of Trump's biology, you allow players with male biological advantages to waltz in. You're upsetting the entire playing field, not just the rules. Additionally, if Brittney Griner stays, what does that say to every female player who works tirelessly every day in the WNBA without any testing or accountability? Attempting to compete on an even playing field that claims their efforts are pointless. This isn't only a Brittney Griner, though. The fundamental basis of women's sports is being shaken by this dilemma. Leagues such as the WNBA have long asserted to promote empowerment and equality, yet they have covertly let biological facts to be disregarded in the term for political correctness. This is about maintaining the integrity, not about hatred or prejudice, of competition, which each and every athlete is entitled to. Because biology is important, sex has always been a factor in sports division. The bodies of males and women are essentially different. Hormone levels, lung capacity, muscle mass, and bone density aren't just trivia. They produce benefits and drawbacks that influence athletes' performance. Ignoring these distinctions isn't, though progressive, it is careless. Brittney Griner is now the embodiment of this carelessness. The mounting worries of the medical community are legitimate, not the product of few fringe voices. In several decades of scientific investigation, when specialists note that Griner's physical attributes match more closely with masculine genetics, it's an appeal to maintain fair play rather than an assault on her identity.
Still coming, and that's going to bump up to about $220 million a year. But even that won't matter if something happens and Caitlin Clark's ratings disappear. like they have now that she's been injured. But that is not teaching this league anything. A couple of weeks ago, and even though it went viral, it somewhat got lost in the shuffle. Brittney Griner's effing white girl trash comments that was caught on video. Some people tried to claim it was effing whack call. I'm sorry, there's not a world where I...
Imagine being a female basketball player who puts in years of training and gives up tears and sweat to have a chance at success. Only to have that shot taken by someone who has inherent physical advantages while identifying as a woman. That neither self-identification nor hormone therapy can eliminate. That's the situation. And it's discouraging. In addition to being unfair, even more concerning is the way the WNBA and other governmental bodies have reacted. They have opted for deception and quiet rather than confronting these difficult problems head-on. It seems as though acknowledging the issue would undermine their meticulously constructed image of inclusivity. Inclusivity that appears at the fairness comes at the expense of complete lack of inclusivity. It's a betrayal. Furthermore, safety is just as important as competitiveness and justice. Women's sports are intense, physically taxing, and even violent. They're not merely enjoyable. The danger of injury increases dramatically when sportsmen compete on uneven terrain. However, instead than dealing with these openly expressed concerns, the league seemed determined to ignore them.
Watching on purpose, it's very disruptive. It's called the freaking game that they pay you money to play. Don't play the game. It's very disruptive. It continues. Brittney Griner voiced frustration in a recent interview, claiming that Caitlin Clark is ruining what used to make the WNBA great. Wait for this.
Empty stands?
This is why the WNBA is never, ever, ever going to work and never make money. And this is exactly what Caitlin Clark gets for bending the knee. Do you guys remember when she said, when we lost all respect for her, when she said, I want to say I've earned every single thing, but as a white person, there is privilege. And the more we can elevate black women, this is going to be a beautiful thing. That's when it was all over. And Angel Reese and Brittney Griner, they walk around like the league owes them something. Even Ryan Clark's attitude as if, bro, where's the victimhood? These are freaking millionaires. Like, what are you talking about? It's attitude, it's no humility, just entitlement, and that's not confidence, it's arrogance with receipts.
To be clear, this has nothing to do with dismantling or restricting anyone's freedom to live their life as they see fit. It's about safeguarding the competitive environment that women's sports have worked so hard to create. It's about recognizing the sacrifices made by female athletes and making sure that their efforts aren't useless by laws that don't take into account the real world. In fact, Brittney Griner's circumstances ought to serve as a warning. Sports leagues must create precise, empirically supported qualifying standards that honor both identity and biology. Although this may sound contentious, ignoring the problem won't make it go away. These women put forth endless effort to compete on an equitable playing field, only to have their chances diminished due to inadequate regulation. What would happen if this issue wasn't resolved? There could be disastrous outcomes. Sponsors might withdraw. The legitimacy of women's sports may be irreversibly destroyed, and fans may lose faith. This isn't exaggeration. If governing entities continue to put appearances ahead of justice, it's a serious possibility.